up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Billy Built. Today we're going to be talking about the 7 truths that come along with owning a 300ZX. And some of these are just facts that most people don't realize until they get one. Or, well, it's just something that you learn after the fact as the years progress and you just kind of come to terms with it. Now, I have personally owned my 300ZX for almost exactly 15 years at this point. By the time this video comes out, it'll probably be April, and it'll probably be exactly 15 years because I got my car on April 1st of 2010. So it's been a long journey with this car for me. It's been through many stages of my life, and with that, the car itself has also been through many stages. I'm not saying like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and so on. I'm just saying that I've had the car personally since it was 100% stock all the way up to, well, now where it has no engine in it. But we're building that to make a lot of power. So if you aren't aware, I highly suggest you guys go check out the other videos of this car because we are going to be making some serious jam with it once that engine gets back from the machine shop. But moving on with the main topic of this video, and with that, I'm starting with number 1 being, well, to put it simply, nobody knows what a 300ZX is. And while they've probably heard about it, they probably just don't know much about it. I still run into people today that are like dumbfounded at the fact that Lamborghini used these headlights in their car, not the other way around. I can't begin to tell you the amount of people who just kind of glaze over when you tell them that you own a 300ZX.
Hell yeah, man. Congratulations, dude. That's amazing. Hell yeah.
It doesn't really connect, but the moment you say anything about like Supra or Skyline or GTR or Whoa! Is that a Supra? Anything more popular than, well, this. You tell people that you own a 240SX and they will immediately connect. I mean, to be honest, they did sell a lot more of these than any other JDM legend, icon, whatever of that era. Granted, the same thing could be said for a lot of cars that are out there. I just think that for what it is, it really just kind of gets pushed to the side. Because if you think about it, this car came out in '89. So in '89, there was no other, well, you had other JDM legends, but they were all the older ones. You had the Mark III Supra, you had the very first gen DSMs, you had an FC RX-7. This was really the first JDM legend icon, I would say, that kicked off the twin turbo era of the JDM import cars. Because after this, you ended up having the Dodge Stealth or 3000 GT VR4. Then you had the RX-7, and then from there you got the Mark IV Supra, and of course the R33, R34 Skyline GTRs. We could get into the R32, I believe that also started in '89 as well as this car. So they were kind of along the same lines, but in the US, we never got the Skyline GTR. All we got was, well, this. I've even gone as far as telling people that, well, I own a Ford Probe. Because really, that's about the equivalent to telling most people that you have a 300ZX Z32. And then you add into the fact of, oh, it's a twin turbo. And then most people will respond with, my camera's falling. Time for a new tripod. Okay, that's cool. And along the same lines of people not knowing what the car is, maybe they do know what the car is. However, they don't even know what the VG30 is. Most people will say, oh yeah, that's like the VQ30, or they'll call it some weird name. However, they don't understand that the motor that came in this is actually an iron block, aluminum head, dual overhead cam design with twin turbos, which is plenty capable of 600-700 horsepower even in stock form. There have been numerous people out there who have made over 700, I would even go as far to say over 800 horsepower on a factory unopened motor. But the moment you so much as mention anything about a VG30, people will go straight to rolling their eyes and saying, oh, that nightmare of an engine. My brother's uncle's nephson's cousin had one of those, and it was a total nightmare to work on. Nobody wanted to work on it. I couldn't find parts for it. It was too expensive. All sorts of stuff, right? Well, it's no different than any other V6 motor with dual overhead cam. It's not a super common thing back in the early 2000s, late 90s that had a timing belt. However, by today's standards, I mean, most motors don't have timing belts anymore, but I would say it's relatively similar to, let's say, an EcoBoost V6 twin turbo, 3.5 liter. Those are timing chain. However, they have, what, 2-3 timing chains on them now? The motors nowadays are just more complex than ever before. It's actually quite ridiculous if I do say so myself. And just to throw this in here, in case you guys forgot, I do in fact have a website with merchandise. If you like the videos and you want to support the builds and support the channel, we're really trying to push this channel this year, trying to grow, get to that 10,000 subscriber mark. Go check out the website. This is probably one of my favorite shirts on there. This is my No Worries design. It has the 300ZX right here, and then it has the Billy Built logo on the front. This one is on there as well. I got a few other designs. If you guys want to go check out the website, Billy Builds with a D. Check it out, head on over. I appreciate every single one of you. Let's get back into today's video. Okay, moving on from there, my number 2 point is something that you don't really find out until after you get the car, which is kind of like a, oh, surprise, by the way, kind of thing. And that is the fact that, well, there's just not much aftermarket support, especially not like there used to be. Back in the day, you had HKS, Epexi, all these Japanese JDM companies making products for this car. Nowadays, it's just a bunch of, well, you got 1 or 2 guys here and there that are making parts in batches and selling them to the public. And you gotta jump on those deals when they're available. If they're not available in a couple years, that's it, they're gone. They may not be making them anymore. They probably moved on to a different platform or just gave up on the community altogether because nobody wants to buy the stuff. Because, let's be honest, for a while, these cars were really cheap, and in all honesty, compared to their, well, let's say relatives, such as the Mark IV Supra and FD RX-7, these are still relatively cheap. Don't even get me started with the NSX, because those have also skyrocketed in value in recent years. Not to mention that nowadays, Nissan is actually remanufacturing parts for this car's counterpart, the Skyline GTR, because they have a full restoration program now that is going out and restoring Skylines. However, they're just overlooking these cars entirely, which to a degree I kind of understand, because there's a lot more of a market for those cars with a lot more money being dumped into the GTR Skyline market than these cars. You're losing out on a lot of little components, little seals, trim pieces, interior panels such as the climate control AC pods, which always break, not to mention the T-top seals, which always leak. So it's becoming more and more difficult over the years just to find parts for these cars. However, I will admit there are some pros to this, because with recent technology, we are now able to convert a lot of things over to the 21st century, such as the R35 coil packs and crank trigger wheels, as well as standalones. There are so many options out there. It just takes a little bit of work to convert today's technology into this beautiful platform behind me. And something else that isn't really said before buying one of these cars is the capability of the engine. Because the thing is everyone from the outside looking in immediately wants to LS swap it, immediately wants to put a JZ motor in it. Well, it isn't really until you get the car and involve yourself into the community that you begin to realize that the VG30 is actually a very, very capable engine. And you could actually build one for relatively cheap as long as you have people in your area. Which, back in the day, it was very difficult to find somebody who was willing to work on this engine because it was so complicated, it was so complex, there was too many electronics. Well, newsflash, today's vehicles are way more complex than this thing could ever hope to be. So, being a dual overhead cam V6 twin turbo is actually really common by today's standards. Also, the cramped engine bay that everyone complains about isn't as bad as you probably think, especially with the tools that are available to us today. So, if for any reason you run across a mechanic that isn't familiar with these cars, I will say throw up a red flag and, well, second guess as to whether or not he's actually capable of working on it. If you can find a seasoned Nissan technician that is readily available to work on the thing and familiar and okay with these cars, even the slightest bit, or even the GTRs. I would say if they work on GTRs, they're very capable of working on one of these. Just because the electronics and the way they operate is very similar. For instance, the GTR Skyline has the similar issues with their coil packs, similar issues with their PTUs, they have the same side feed injectors. A lot of the parts are very similar between the GTR Skyline and this car, which actually leads me to my next point. That being that these are probably, in a weird sense, the most sought after Nissan of the 90s era. Now, it may be indirectly sought after, but it is, I would say, one of the most sought after. And that was simply because there were so many of these produced, and let's be real here, a lot of the parts that are on these are easily transferred over to other Nissan vehicles, such as the 240SX. Those guys love these cars because they would take the rear end, the axles, the brakes, the transmission, everything out of these cars except for the engine and put it into their 240SX. Same thing with the GTR guys. However, most of the parts aren't really an upgrade from this car. They're just, well, I would say same tier. The brakes are pretty much the same. The suspension components are nearly identical, especially the rear, as I just went over in my previous video. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link up here. You can check that out. Same thing in the front. However, you just run into slightly different subframes and cross members and all that fun stuff. I'll even go as far to say that, well, the internals of the coil packs are pretty much built identical. Because if you look at the photo of a GTR coil pack and a Z32 coil pack, they're pretty much the same. All they did was rotate it 90 degrees on its axis and, well, change the way that the coil boot comes out of the coil pack itself. Now, back to the whole point of, well, the 240SX guys would take everything from this car except the VG30 engine. A lot of them just didn't know how to work on these motors. Typically, for the general public, when most people get one of these, they immediately want to jump straight to an LS swap, a 2JZ swap, an RB swap. Why? Well, to be honest, those are much simpler, and, well, some of them are easier to get your hands on, such as the LS. And to be honest, the LS is a simpler motor. You have one cam, you have 16 valves, you have 8 cylinders. It is just overall a much easier engine to work on and service. However, you run into engines like the 2JZ, where, well, those have gone up in price and they are becoming more and more scarce. And then you have engines like the RB26, RB25, where they didn't even make those engines over here. So good luck finding parts at a reasonable price. They are becoming more and more common because a lot of those cars are just being imported by the dozens. Honestly, at one point, I would even go as far to say that the GTR is just the next 240SX. And moving on to point number, I think we're at 5 now. And it's something that you don't really understand until you get one. And that is, well, boost is addicting. You might get an NA and convince yourself that you are okay with it in a naturally aspirated form. However, the moment you sit or get a ride in a twin turbo 300ZX, it'll change your life, totally change your perspective. You need one, you gotta have it. Tell yourself you're gonna slap some turbos on it, make about 10 PSI, 300-ish horsepower, and you're gonna call it a day at that. However, you finally get around to doing it and then you realize how easy it is to just turn the boost up. And then you start cranking it up to 12, 15 PSI, and then you want bigger turbos. It's just a snowballing effect from there. So I'm just gonna leave it at the fact that, well, boost is addicting. You can't get away from it. It is just part of you at that point. I mean, I got a turbo Supra. We got a turbocharged BRZ. The only car I have that I refuse to turbocharge is going to be, I don't know if it'll focus, my CRX. That little yellow thing out there, I am not going to turbocharge. You cannot convince me to turbocharge it because it is just, I love the responsiveness of it being naturally aspirated. I don't have to wait for a turbo to spool up. It's just got VTEC, it's got RPM. I love the reliability of it. I just want to hop in it and go. Meant for driving smoothly. It wants to be thrashed. The car needs some help right now, I'm not gonna lie, and that's why you guys haven't seen it much in any of my recent videos. I think I need to do a fuel pump on it. I'm not gonna get into that in this video. And carrying on, let's move on to the fact that, well, we got T-tops, and it's glass. So, with that, you can remove this panel right here, and next thing you know, you got a glass roof. Pretty freaking cool if you ask me. I've always enjoyed the glass roof, if I'm being honest. It can be a little bit of a hindrance once you actually start racing the car because, well, you can't race a car with a glass roof without a helmet at the track. So there's a few small problems with it. Also with the T-tops, needless to say, you have seals, and those seals are prone to leaking. So if you haven't replaced your seals, I don't even know who makes them anymore. I should probably replace mine because I have actually never replaced my seals. I'm gonna find some wood here in a minute and knock on it because I've been very fortunate. But with that said, the T-tops are a very, very nice addition if you just wanna hop in the car and go for a weekend cruise. Or for instance, if you just wanna buy one just to keep it stocked and just cruise around with your significant other. It's such a great thing to have, to just be able to take that off. Honestly, I do not like convertibles. However, I like hardtops. I was kind of neutral on the T-top for a while because I wasn't sure what to expect. And to be honest, you don't even realize that it's a T-top. You just have this little crossbar here in the middle and it's like it's not even there. And last but certainly not least, does working on them suck? Well, I would say that's relative because it all depends on what you're used to and where you came from. If you're working on a lot of newer vehicles this day and age, working on one of these is very simple if you can find the parts and have them readily available. However, if you're used to working on 90s Hondas, maybe JZs even, those are much easier to work on. And well, that's just for the sheer fact that the turbos are easily accessible, the parts are easily accessible. For instance, I could pull the motor out of my Honda in about an hour and a half. Motor on this, I can have out in about, well, probably 2 to 3 hours, honestly. It's not that bad either. And that's only because I've done it a few times. Same thing with the Honda. Everything is relative. You do it once, you simplify it, you get better and faster at doing it. Honestly, diagnosing one of these is no different than diagnosing any other vehicle. If you get one, replace all the rubber hoses and get ready to replace the engine harness almost immediately because the cars are going on 30 years old now. The engine harness have been through a lot of different heat cycles. Same thing with the rubber hoses, the timing belt. If the timing belt's any more than 5 years, just go ahead and replace it. All of the electronics in them it's just getting old. That's part of these cars. It's not like they've just been sitting around for 5 years not being driven. They've been sitting around for, well, 20 years at this point because they had a misfire or the fuel pump control module went out on them or just something simple and something stupid like that. And you can honestly find probably a really good deal on these still. They're out there. I've seen them. They pop up on Marketplace all the time. Hopefully in the near future with this channel, I'll be able to start buying and fixing them on the regular. I just need a little bit more space and well, something more than just a 2-car garage to work on them. I am literally tapped out right now. So with that said, I hope you guys got some sort of good information out of this. If nothing else, for those of you that have been in the 300ZX community for a while, you would probably appreciate this video and can nod your head to multiple things that I have said, especially considering the cars are just overlooked. There's no other way around that. It's just something you gotta come to terms with and accept as a Z owner because, well, you can have an 800 horsepower, 900 horsepower 300ZX parked next to a 500 horsepower Supra, and people will always flock to the Supra. It's just part of it. Doesn't matter how much more time and energy you put into the car. Don't do it for the clout, do it for yourself. There's so much more to cars than just impressing other people. It's been a long time coming. However, hopefully in the next month, we will have a new engine block for my 300ZX. I'll be able to put the cams and lifters and all that back into the heads, strap the heads onto the block, put the turbos on, and we are going to have a 1,000+ horsepower monster that is just capable of eating everything in its path. It's going to be awesome. I'm super excited about it, you guys. And I'm super happy that all of you are along for the journey because it has been a long time coming. We are always looking to improve, and I'm taking you all along with me with this YouTube journey, and I'm really excited. Let's make the name for the 300ZXs out there, and I appreciate every single one of you for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.